Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is now 18:30 South African time. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, or joining me this evening for the CSA Level 3 course. We're now busy with Lecture 6. I am flying solo this evening because my co-pilot Tom, he is currently busy with a Lecture 1 course at one of the local schools. So the format for this evening is as follows. I will start with last week's revision questions. Then I will cover Law 41. Then I will open up the floor. Then I will do some revision questions, and then I will open up the floor for some Q&A. So to kick off for this evening, if I can please ask the attendees to mute themselves. I can hear a bit of background noise. Thank you so much. So last week's revision questions, the first one was a bowler bowling towards the striker. The striker then hits the ball on the full against the helmet that's worn by the silly point fielder. The ball then ricochets in the air towards a fielder or towards the cover fielder who catches the ball. Cover fielder then see the non-striker, who is the informed batsman, sort of he's a ground and then throws the wickets down at the bowler's end. What happens next? So the striker is out caught if a ball that was delivered by the bowler touches the bat without previously being in contact with any fielder, and then is subsequently held by the fielder as a fair catch before he touches the ground. If the striker is not out bowled, then he is out caught, even though a decision against either batter for any other method of dismissal would be justified. So catch would take priority above any other dismissal except for bowled. So in this scenario, the striker is out caught, and the reason why the striker is out caught is, yes, the ball ricocheted from the helmet, but you can be caught off the helmet. So as soon as the striker, the cover fielder catches the ball, that ball then becomes dead, and anything that happens after that is irrelevant. Hence, the run-out attempt by the cover fielder is not valid. So striker is out caught. Next question is where the batter gets an inside edge. The ball then ricochets from the keeper's helmet, from the glove onto the keeper's visor, and then bounce back onto the wickets. There's an appeal. So the answer is, if the wicket is put down by the ball, even though it touched the keeper's helmet, the batter can still be out stumped. So in this case, batter should be given out stumped. 3-day game, close of play is 1800 hours at 17:52 with the batting side 318 for 9. The striker who's batting outside his crease to the spinner edges the ball, and then the ball goes to first slip off the keeper's grill. Also, the umpire calls a front foot no ball. The wicketkeeper then seeing the striker who is not attempting a run, he's still out of his ground. The keeper then gets the ball back from first slip and breaks the wicket. There's an appeal from the fielders. So now when it comes to run out, we know that while the ball is in play, if the striker does not have any part of his person or bat behind the popping crease and the wicket is put down, the striker can be out run out whether a run is attempted or not. So that is what the law say. But if a no ball is called, it changes slightly, because the striker is not run out if a no ball has been called, and if the striker is out of his ground, not attempting a run. As soon as the striker attempts a run, it changes, the law then changes, then the striker can be run out. As long as the striker is not attempting a run, and even if the ball is a no ball, the striker cannot be out stumped, nor can the striker be out run out. But in this scenario, there is intervention from the first slip, and so the ball goes to the first slip. First slip then returns the ball to the keeper, who then breaks the wicket, and the striker is outside the crease. So in this scenario, striker is out run out. The innings ended at 17:52, and this is and if an innings ends 10 minutes or less before the close of play of 6, in this case, the innings is at an end, and no change shall be made to the start of play the following day. And so there is a bit of background noise. Can I please ask those that are not muted? Thank you so much. So those were last week's revision questions. The only law that we're covering this evening is Law 41, that deals with fair and unfair play. Who is the sole judges of fair and unfair play? Yes, the umpires are the sole judges of fair and unfair play. So we will cover a few laws under Law 41 that deals with unfair play and what punishment the fielding side gets if unfair play happens. So the first subsection under unfair play that we're covering is if there was a deliberate distraction or deception or obstruction of either of the batters after the ball was delivered. So in this particular exam, we're focusing on an incident that happens after the ball gets delivered. So there is either a deliberate distraction or deception or obstruction after the ball has been delivered. So the law tells us that if any of the fielders, and the important word is willfully attempt, and that willful attempt can either be by word or action, and by this word or action, and this willful word or action, the fielder then either distract or obstruct or tries to deceive either of the batters after the striker has received the ball. We will now see what punishment the umpires need to give to the fielding side. So just to go over this again, firstly, the important thing is it needs to be a willful attempt by any of the fielders. And this willful attempt needs to be, it can be by either word or action. And by this word or action, it either distracts, obstructs, or deceive either of the batters. And if that is the case, we will now see the punishment. So as soon as this happens, either umpire to call and signal dead ball. Neither of the batters shall be dismissed from that delivery. You shall award 5 penalty runs to the batting side. The ball shall not count as one for the over. Any runs completed before the offence shall be scored, together with any penalty runs, and the run in progress, whether the batters crossed or not, shall also be scored. Batters at the wicket shall decide who faces the next delivery. And then you shall inform everyone and report the incident to the governing body. So what this unfair action is trying to say is, firstly, there needs to be a willful attempt, and it can be by word or action. So you can either distract either of the batters by a word or action. You can obstruct. Example of an obstruct is if you, let's say the batters are running and you put out your foot, That's a method of obstructing. Or you can try to deceive either of the batters. An example of trying to deceive the batters is we've all seen mock fielding where the fielder goes towards the ball. The fielder is about 5 meters from the ball, but because of the angle, the fielder gives the impression that the fielder is about to pick up the ball. So the fielder is mocking the action of picking up the ball, even though the fielder is about 5 meters from the ball. That is just to put the batters off from taking an additional run. So that is an example of deceive. So if either of these distraction, obstruction, or deception happens, you need to apply the 6 bullet points on this slide. Next, unfair action, and this is bowling of the dangerous and unfair non-pitching deliveries. Other word, full tosses, beamers. So what happens if a bowler bowls a non-fair pitching delivery that is unfair according to the law? So what is an unfair non-pitching delivery? Let's have a look what the law tells us. So the law says that any delivery, and this is any delivery, so whether it's a fast bowler, a medium pace bowler, a spin bowler, so any delivery which passes or would have passed on the full, and this ball is now above waist height of the striker standing upright at the popping crease. I'll repeat the first clause in this paragraph. So any delivery which passes or would have passed on the full above waist height, and it needs to pass above waist height of the striker standing upright at the popping crease. And according to the law, that ball is deemed dangerous and unfair, and it is irrelevant whether it's likely to inflict harm on the striker. And what do you do if a bowler bowls such a delivery? The law guides us here. The law tells us the either umpire needs to call So which umpire is in the best position to call this? Yes, the strikers in umpire. There's nothing stopping the bowlers in umpire from calling this, but the strikers in umpire is in the best position to make this call. And if the ball is above waist height on the full and the striker is standing upright at the popping crease, the strikers in umpire needs to call and signal no ball. Again, it's the strikers in umpire's call, but there's nothing stopping the bowlers in umpire from making this call. The important points that you need to take out from this first clause is it needs to be above waist height. So if you can just visualize, if I say waist height, I think a belt height needs to be above belt height, and the striker needs to be standing upright at the popping crease. So that is where you judge, or you should judge, whether the ball is above waist height. Sometimes you will find, especially for spinners bowling, the striker may be stepping or double stepping to get to the pitch of the ball. You do not, and if the striker do double step, you do not judge it where when it goes past the striker after the striker's been double stepping. You need to judge it if that striker was standing upright at the popping crease. That is where you need to judge it. And if it is above waist height, if the striker was standing upright at the popping crease, either umpire or the best person, the best umpire to call this is a striker's in umpire, but either one can call it, and either umpire should call and signal no ball. So now you've called and signal no ball. So what do you do? So once the ball is dead, the bowler's in umpire shall then caution the bowler and indicate to the bowler that this is your first and final warning for bowling a ball that without pitching above waist height of the striker. The bowler senior umpire shall then inform the other umpire, the captain of the fielding side, and the batters of what just happened. This first and final caution shall apply throughout the innings. So what happens in this innings, and let's say it happened in the first innings, there's again a similar delivery that was bowled. Striker standing upright at the popping crease, and the ball is above waist height on the full. What do? Call and signal no ball. Once the ball is dead, you ask the fielding captain to suspend the bowler immediately from bowling, and that bowler shall not be allowed to bowl again in that inning. So if it happens in the first innings, the bowler will be then suspended from bowling again in the first innings. So if it happens the first time, first and final warning. If it happens the second time in that innings, you need to ask the captain to suspend the bowler from bowling in that particular innings. If this would happen midway through the over, you will then ask another bowler to complete the over, and this bowler that's completing the over should not have bowled the previous over, nor is the bowler allowed to bowl the following over. The umpire shall then inform everyone and also report the incident. I'm hearing a bit of background noise. If you can be so kind as to mute yourself, please. Thank you so much. Next section of unfair play. When there's a bowling of a deliberate front foot no ball. So what do you do when a bowler deliberately bowls a front foot no ball? So if the umpire considers that the bowler has delivered a deliberate front foot no ball, what action shall the umpire take? So now you might ask the question, deliberate front foot no ball. How do you judge a deliberate front foot no ball? Usually, and firstly, why would a bowler would want to bowl a deliberate front foot no ball? A bowler would want to do it if there's been a bit of words between bowler and batter, and the bowler would like to come a bit closer to the batter, and because of wanting to come a bit closer, especially if it's a fast bowler now closer to the batter, now trying to bowl the ball much quicker. Because of the words between batter and bowler, the bowler would then maybe wants to bowl a deliberate front foot no ball. So usually for this to happen, there needs to be a bit of words between bowler and batter. That's a clear sign when this happens. So I would say 99.9% of the time, there's been a bit of words between batter and bowler, and then after that, you need to be alert. And if the bowler then bowls a deliberate front foot no ball, you will see the punishment that the umpire needs to give now. So, firstly, there needs to be a bit of words between batter and bowler. And secondly, judging a deliberate front foot no ball, it's usually quite far over the popping crease. That's another way of judging it. It's not just over the popping crease, it's over the popping crease by quite a distance. And why would the bowler wants to go over the popping crease by quite a distance? That means the bowler is now closer to the batter. There's not been words between the bowler and the batter, and by going far over the popping crease, the bowler is now closer to the batter, and then the bowler would now deliver the ball much quicker and the ball would get much quicker to the striker. So these are the things that precedes a deliberate front foot no ball. Yes, it is a judgment call, but you need to take those factors into account. And the main factors are there's usually a bit of words between batter and bowler, and then suddenly in the next ball or two, the bowler goes far over the popping crease. And if that is the case, what are the punishment? Firstly, immediately call and signal no ball. When the ball is dead, you direct the fielding captain to take the bowler out of the attack. So this bowler will immediately be suspended from bowling in that particular innings. So if it happened in the first innings, for the whole of the first continuation of the first innings, that bowler will be suspended and will not be allowed to bowl again. If in the second innings, yes, the bowler is now a new innings, the bowler will then be allowed. But for this whole first innings, the bowler shall not be allowed to bowl. You'll inform the other umpire for the reason for this action. So as I said, the bowler suspended shall not be allowed to bowl in that particular innings. If this happened midway through the over shall then be completed by another bowler, and this bowler shall neither have bowled any part of the previous over, nor shall this bowler be allowed to bowl the next over. You shall report the occurrence to the batters and to the batting captain, and then the umpires shall report this incident to the executive of the offending side as well as the governing body of cricket for that particular game, who shall take the appropriate action against the bowler. The protected area. What is the protected area on the pitch? So the protected area is a specific area on the pitch, and it is a rectangle bound area at each end if joined by imaginary lines parallel to the popping crease and 1.52 meters in front of it. And on the sides by imaginary lines, one on each side of the imaginary lines, joining the centers of the two middle stump, each parallel to it and 30.48 centimeters from it. The best way to illustrate this is by a diagram. So the protected area is the red shaded area. And how do you mark the protected area? You, from the middle stump, I'm not sure if you can see my cursor, but if you can't see my cursor, on the left-hand side, just look at the middle stump. And from the middle stump, you take 30.48 centimeters to the left and to the right, and you make 2 marks. You do the same thing on the other side. From the middle stump, you mark to the left 30.48 centimeters and to the right 30.48 centimeters. Then also from the popping crease, you take 1.52 meters and you make a mark. If you can see my cursor on the left hand side, 1.52 centimeters from the popping crease. The diagram shows 5 feet. 1.52 centimeters is equivalent to 5 feet. And on the right hand side, you'll see similar markings. If you draw lines through the danger area, protected area markings, you will then get a rectangular area marked in red. That is called the protected area, and it's important for umpires to make sure that we protect that particular area, and we need to protect it from bowlers or any of the fielding side, including the bowler, and we need to protect it from batters. And it's important for us to make sure that we protect it. Why is it important? Fielding side, including the bowlers and the batters, they will take their chances. The state of the game will dictate when they would try to roughen up this particular area, and why would they want to roughen up the area to allow the spinners to come into the game. So the state of the game will dictate when this will happen. You need to be much more vigilant. Usually, you won't find batters or bowlers trying to run in the protected area or roughen it up on day one or day two. It's usually day three and day four when you need to be much more vigilant. But still, even on day one or day two, you still need to protect this area. Sometimes bowlers, sometimes or a lot of times they try to roughen it up to bring the spinners into the game on day three and day four. But sometimes you do find just a bit of lazy bowlers in the follow through. They do not run off quickly enough, and they do run into the protected area. You need to step in and inform the bowler, please, you need to get out of the protected area. We are going to see now what punishment we give to bowlers if they do encroach in the protected area. We will also see what punishment they are for batters if they go into the protected area. So important part of your job as an umpire, especially in more-day cricket, is to make sure, and not just more-day cricket, even 20 overs or 50 over cricket, you need to make sure that you do protect the red shaded area. So behind the stumps, from the bowler's end, just to give you a eye view, the area that you need to protect. Let me just play a video with regards to damaging the pitch and the punishment.
Damaging the pitch. Deliberately damaging the pitch is illegal and can be costly to the guilty player's side. A bowler will be deemed to be causing deliberate damage if the umpire considers that his or her presence on the protected area of the pitch, shown here in red, is without reasonable cause. This can be after delivering the ball, or, if the bowler fails to release the ball, after the completion of the delivery swing and delivery stride. The first offence will receive a caution. The second, a final warning. And if the bowler does it again, he or she will be suspended from bowling for the rest of the innings and may well face disciplinary action after the match.
For fielders and batsmen, it is the whole pitch that they must not damage, not just the protected area.
If any fielder causes deliberate damage to the pitch, he or she will face a similar caution and be reported to the captain.
If there is a repeat offence by any fielder during that innings, 5 runs are awarded to the batting side. Finally, if either batsman causes deliberate damage to the pitch, the batsman will be given a first and final warning and told this practice is unfair. This warning will apply through the innings and each incoming batsman will be warned. Should this happen again, the umpire will disallow all runs from that delivery, other than the penalty for a no ball or wide.
Furthermore, the umpire will award 5 penalty runs to the fielding side, return the batsmen to their original ends, inform both captains, and the offending player may well face disciplinary action after the match. If you're in any doubt, refer to Law 41 in the Blue Book.
So for the purpose of this exam, we will focus on what happens if the bowler runs in the protected area. We will focus on what happens if the batter goes into the protected area. And we'll also focus on what happens if batters uh, runs onto the pitch without a reasonable cause. So let's start with bowlers running in the protected area. So it's unfair for a bowler to enter the protected area if there's no reasonable cause, and whether the ball is delivered or not. As soon as the bowler's delivered the ball, the bowler needs to get off the pitch and not run in the protected area. The law says unfair to go in there without reasonable cause. Now, what is reasonable cause to go in there? Let's say the batter hits the ball straight down the pitch, and the bowler needs to field the ball, and the bowler then dives into the protected area. That is a reasonable cause why the bowler needed to go in the protected area. No issue with that. Another example of reasonable cause for the bowler to go into the protected area. The bowler bowls a short ball, striker pulls, ball goes into the air. The ball then goes into the air above the pitch. For the bowler now to catch the ball, the bowler then goes into the protected area, or needs to go into the protected area. In that instance as well, there is a reasonable cause why the bowler needs to go in there. No issue with that at all. But if there's no reasonable cause, the bowler should make concerted effort to not go into the protected area. So what happens if the bowler do go into the protected area? When it happens the first time, let's first go what the law tells us what to do, and then I'll give you a bit of umpiring technique, how to handle this. So according to the law, if a bowler contravenes this law, or if a bowler goes into the protected area without a reason, at the first instance, the bowler's in umpire to caution the bowler. The bowler's in umpire then also to inform the other umpire of what has happened. This caution to the bowler shall apply throughout the innings. So the caution is for the bowler going into the protected area without reasonable cause. And remember, the caution applies throughout that particular innings. And even if the bowler later switches ends, bowlers loves doing it. They'll go into the protected area on let's say the north side, and now they'll think let's go to the other side. Maybe the other umpire won't give me a warning. Be vigilant. If the bowler do change sides, still be on your toes. So you will, first time the bowler goes in there, caution to the bowler, and that caution shall apply throughout the innings. Also then inform the captain of the fielding side and the batters that you've given the bowler a caution for running in the protected area. So in that innings, that same bowler, it doesn't matter which side is now bowling, whether it's from the north side or the south side, and if that bowler goes again in the protected area, now you will say to the bowler, this is now your final warning for running in the protected area, and this warning shall apply throughout the innings. So what happens if the same bowler runs in the protected area for a third time in that particular innings? Now you need to tell the fielding captain to suspend the bowler immediately from bowling. If there are still balls left in the over, the balls needs to be completed by the over needs to be completed by another bowler, and that bowler should not have bowled the previous over, nor is that bowler allowed to bowl the next over. You shall then inform everyone and report to the governing body. Before I go, what happens to the striker if the striker goes into the protected area? So the law just tells us when it comes to the bowler going in there, firstly, you give him or her caution. Secondly, you'll give him or her a final warning. And then thirdly, you will give the, you will ask the fielding captain to suspend or to remove the bowler from the attack. A bit of field craft. So what I would do is, if I do see the bowler go in the protected area a first time, I will have a quiet word with the bowler. There's nowhere in the law that says you should have a quiet word with the bowler. The law just tells if bowler goes in there, caution, second time final warning, third time suspension from the attack. But if I do see a bowler go in there the first time, I will have a quiet word with the bowler. Just telling the bowler, you're running uh, in the protected area. If it happens a second time, I will then again have a word, but now a stern word with the bowler. I will then call the fielding captain over, and then I'll tell the fielding captain, Captain, this is now the second time I'm speaking to your bowler. Your bowler is running in the protected area. The next time I will go to punishment. And then if the bowler runs in the third time, now I will go to the punishment that the law gives us. Caution first time, final warning second time, and then suspension from the attack. So I do work a bit with the bowlers by firstly giving them have a quiet word, and then secondly a more sterner word, but then also bringing in his or her captain, and then the third time. Now I will start with the punishment by caution, and then another time final warning, and then third time suspension from the attack. Having said this, you also need to take the match situation into account. So what I mean by that is, let's say this is on the end of it's a 4-day game, and this is the end of day 3, or the morning of day 4, and it's a spinning track. The track is starting to take spin, and the bowler, at this times you now need to be more vigilant. You need to watch the bowler. Why do you need to now watch the bowlers more carefully for going into protected area? They now want to start roughening up the um, the the protected area, because they want to bring their spinners into the game. Now you need to be much more vigilant. So whereas you're a bit more lenient, let's say on day 1 and 2, where you'll have a quiet word, and then you'll bring in the captain. But if this is the end of day 3 and day 4, and you need to look at the match situation, and you can see the track is spinning, and the bowlers maybe would want to rough up the protected area, now you need to be much more vigilant. Now you need to blow the whistle much quicker. Instead of now first a warning, and then first a friendly warning, and then speaking to the bowler again and to the captain, you can because of the state of the game, you can act a bit quicker. So there's nothing in the law that speaks about friendly warnings and speaking to the bowler, but work with the bowler, but also take into account the match situation. And if the match situation wants you to be much more vigilant, you need to then be much more vigilant in protecting the protected area. So now we've learned what happened to the bowler if the bowler goes into the protected area. So that area, we not just need it protected from the bowlers and the fielders, we also need to protect it from the striker. So what happens if the striker goes into the protected area? So firstly, the law tells us that the striker shall not adopt a stance that in the protected area, or so close to the protected area that he or she will go into it every time. So if you can visualize, firstly, if you see the striker standing in the protected area, that is not allowed. You need to tell the striker to move back or to move out of the protected area. Who's the best umpire to see this? The strikers in umpire. Although you can work as a team on to see exactly where the striker is standing, but the law tells us the striker shall not stand in the protected area. If you do, you need to tell the striker to get out of the protected area. Or if the striker is standing so deep outside or so far outside his crease that if the striker should play forward, frequent encroachment or frequent going into the protected area frequently is inevitable. In those instances as well, you need to tell the striker to move a foot or two back. It's your job or our job as umpires to protect the danger or to protect the protected area. We need to protect it. So the law allows the striker to make a guard on the pitch, but that mark that the striker is making shall not be unreasonably close to the protected area. Again, that's your judgment call, but it should not be close to the protected area. So what happens if the striker now goes into the protected area? The law tells us firstly, the striker goes in there, give the striker first and final warning. And this warning shall apply throughout the innings. Shall also inform the non-striker of this warning and also each incoming batter that your side is on a first and final warning for going into the protected area. Shall inform the captain of the fielding side and the captain of the batting side when possible. So what happens? You've now given the batting side a warning. So what happens if they go into the protected area again? So the law now tells us that, so if there's further breach by any of the batters, so this first and final warning is a team warning and not a batsman's warning. So it shall apply to the batting inning, so the batting side throughout the batting innings. That's why the law said to us, you need to inform each and every incoming batter. So important, not a batsman's warning. It's a team warning. That's why you need to inform everyone. So if there's any breach by any of the batters in that particular innings, again, for going into the protected area, what happens next? Disallow all runs to the batting side, return any not out batter to his or her original end. If there was a wide or a no ball, to signal it. 5 penalty runs to the fielding side for the batters going into the protected area after you've given them a first and final warning. You shall also award any other 5 penalty runs except penalty runs under law 28.3, and those are protective helmets belonging to the fielding side. You shall inform everyone and report the incident to the governing body. So if now you can see, it's one of our main jobs as umpires. We need to guard or to protect the protected area, not just from bowlers and fielders, but also make sure that we need to protect it from the striker as well. So batters damaging the pitch. So what is when do batters damage the pitch? The law tells us that it's unfair for batters to cause deliberate or avoidable damage to the pitch. So if the striker should enter the protected area while playing a shot, the striker then after playing the shot needs to move immediately out of the protected area. So what this means is the law allows the striker to double step or triple step to get to the pitch of the ball, even if it means the striker running in the protected area. So law allows the striker to double step, but as soon as the shot is played, the striker immediately needs to move out of the protected area. So what happens if, according to the umpire, either batters cause deliberate or avoidable damage to the pitch? What do you need to do? As soon as the ball is dead, the bowler's in umpire needs to warn both batters that this practice is unfair and this is your first and final warning for causing avoidable damage to the pitch. The warning shall apply throughout the innings, and the umpire needs to inform each and every incoming batter that the side is on a first and final warning for batsmen damaging the pitch. So it's not a batter's warning, and you don't give 10 warnings for batters damaging the pitch. As soon as you give the batters a first and final warning, that is a team warning. And that's why it's important, because it's a team warning. And let's say the opening batters cause deliberate and avoidable damage to the pitch, the umpires need to inform each and every single batter that comes in afterwards that the team is on a final warning for causing deliberate damage to the pitch. After giving the first and final warning, inform the captain of the fielding side and, when practicable, captain of the batting side. So now the team is on the first and final warning. So if there's any further instance of the batting side causing avoidable damage to the pitch, once the ball is dead, the umpire shall then, or the bowlers and umpire shall, disallow all runs to the batting side. Return any not out batter to his or her original end. Signal no ball or wide to the scorers, if applicable. Award 5 penalty runs to the fielding side. Award any other 5 penalty runs, except if the ball should hit the protective helmet belonging to the fielding side. Inform everyone and report this to the governing body. So there's quite a harsh penalty if batters causes avoidable damage to the pitch. That is all I'm covering this evening under Law 41. I am now going over to the revision questions for the evening. And the first revision question for the evening is: striker hits a leg side delivery to a position 5 meters in front of square leg. The striker calls the non-striker for a quick single. As the batter's turn for a second run, the short leg fielder moves to his left and stuck out his foot, and by sticking out his foot, he trips the striker, who falls to the ground. The mid-wicket fielder then gathers the ball and throws the wicket down at the striker's end, with the striker well short of his ground. There is a huge appeal by the fielding side. What happens next? Do we have any hands up?
Hi, Dula. Yes, we do.
Yeah.
The first up was Nazmi Bodin.
Nazmi, can you take us through what happens next?
Hi, good evening all. Yes, the umpire should call signal and signal dead ball because that was a deliberate attempt to obstruct the fielder. Neither batter shall be dismissed from the delivery. And the umpire should award 5 penalty runs to the batting side. And I think there's a couple of more. I think the ball shall not count for one as the over. And any runs completed before the offence shall be scored. And I think together with any penalty runs as well. And I think the last one, the batter will decide who will face the next ball. And I think, yeah, I think that's it, yeah.
Well done, Nazmi. You've answered 90% of the question. I'll go through the portions that you've left out.
Dula, before you do that, maybe there's another hand up, Varun. Maybe Varun can pull in what Nazmi missed.
Yeah, Varun. There are two important facts that Nazmi missed. Can you help
Yes.
Nazmi, Varun?
Yeah, yes, sir, yes. For as far as runs are concerned, runs in progress plus runs completed will be scored in addition of
Yeah.
5 runs or any pen given.
Yeah.
One is given, another one is reporting. Umpire
Yes.
together should report the runs as soon as possible after the match.
Well done,
Yes.
Varun, and you, Nazmi. Yeah, well done. Yes. So firstly, you'll
And
call and signal dead ball and ask the fielding side and ask the ball from the fielding side, and you'll call your colleague towards you for consultation. It's always good fielding practice when this happens, just to buy you a bit of time. Call and signal dead ball, go over to your colleague, and just discuss what you've seen, because it's important. What you need to be 100% sure of is the bullet point number 2. You need to discuss whether there was a willful attempt by the fielder to distract, deceive, or to obstruct the batters. If your answer to that question is yes, was there a willful attempt? If the answer is yes, you then need to apply the following penalty. So in this case, there was a willful attempt. The fielder clearly put out his foot to trip the batter. So what happens? So neither batter shall be dismissed from this delivery. So because of the appeal for run out, that appeal shall be not out. The bowlers and umpire shall then award 5 penalty runs to the batting side and signal to the scorers and wait for them to acknowledge. Inform the captain of the fielding side of the reason for this action, and then also, when possible, the captain of the batting side. The ball to not count as one for the over. So any runs before the offence shall be scored, together with any runs for penalties. If there was a no ball, that will also count. And additionally, the run in progress, whether the batters crossed or not, shall also be scored. The batters at the wicket shall decide which of them is to face the next delivery and report the incident to the governing body. So how many runs for this particular scenario? So the batters completed 1 run, and the second run was in progress. So we've just read that the 1 run that they've completed shall be scored together with the run in progress. Yes, they didn't cross, but the law says, irrespective whether they cross or not, that run will count. So in total, it shall be 7 runs, and that is 5 penalty runs plus the 1 run they completed, plus the 1 run that was in progress. Well done, Nazmi and Varun. And Middelfield Graph, you can write down the time over and the ball, and at the next interval, just go to the scorers and just double check that they've recorded 7 runs in the scorebook. Second question. Third ball of the 6th over of day 1 of a 3-day game is bowled by the fast bowler, which is a full ball directed at the striker above waist height, and which the striker hits to fine leg for 4. Explain your actions. Wilma, do we have any hands?
Yes, we do. Dula, Ranger.
Renze, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so because the bowler has bowled the ball above waist height, you shall call and signal dead ball, where there is likely to inflict like any injury. And
Call and signal what, Renze? What are you going to call? Call and signal?
dead ball? No ball.
That's it. Yeah,
No
thanks,
ball.
Renze. Yeah, call and signal, no ball. Yeah.
No ball. And it will be your first and final warning. Same as you shall inform the other umpire and the fielding captain and the batters, and I will give the floor to other people to chance to answer.
Okay, thank you, Renze. Wilma, do you have any other hands that can help, Renze?
Yes, we do, Shashikant.
Shashikant, floor is yours.
I think he will not be able to bowl this over, and the bowler who comes to bowl, he should not be able. The one who comes to bowl finishes over. He should not have bowled the previous over, and he cannot bowl the next over. Hello.
Yeah, yes, Shashikant. Yeah.
I think that's it.
So, okay, I just lost you there for a second, Shashikant. So, are you saying, what did you say? You're gonna remove the bowler from the attack?
Yes, you will remove the bowler from the attack, and if the over was not complete, bowler who is going to come to complete his over, he should not have bowled the previous over, and he cannot bowl the next over.
So Shashikant, is this the first ball that the bowlers bowled above waist height? Or is this was there a previous warning, or is this his first warning?
This should be first and final warning.
Yes. So this is his first and final warning for bowling a ball above waist height.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Let's see what the memo say. So you shall call and signal no ball, and the reason for that is any delivery which pass without pitching above waist height, striker standing upright at the crease, whether it's likely to inflict physical injury or not, shall be called a no ball. So when the ball is dead, the umpire shall caution the bowler and indicate that this is your first and final warning. Umpire shall inform the other umpire, captain of the fielding side, and this caution shall apply throughout the innings. And a bit of field craft, you shall signal no ball to the scorers and wait for acknowledgement. And then also remember the question said a boundary 4 was hit off the ball, so you need to signal a boundary 4 to the scorers as well and wait for acknowledgement. And for extra mark, you can say there are 4 balls left in the over. Third question. During the morning session of a 3-day game, and it's on day 3, you notice the striker running straight down the middle of the pitch. What action will you take, if any? This is a three-prong question, so I will show the other questions as well. And then Wilma, I need 3 hands to first answer the A portion, and then the B portion, and then the C portion. So the A portion is, you notice the striker running straight down the middle of the pitch. Then the over after lunch, also on day 3, you then also notice the striker running straight down the pitch. Explain your actions, if any. And then 2 overs later in the session, sorry, 2 overs after the drinks break in the middle session, you again notice the non-striker running straight down the middle of the pitch. So firstly, in the morning session, you notice the striker running straight down the middle of the pitch. Will you take any action? What will you do?
Dula,
Any
Range's hand
hands,
is
Wilma?
up. Range's hand is up. I'm not
Uh,
sure if that's an old hand.
Yeah,
Okay.
if there are any other hands, Wilma, maybe you can give others
Yeah.
opportunity. If not, then we'll allow Renze to answer.
No, Range's got off. So it's Nazmi.
Are there any other hands? Because Nazmi
Has answered,
gave
and
input already.
Shashikant has answered. Paveen.
Yeah, let's go to Bhavin. Bhavin, so in the morning session, you've noticed the striker running straight down. Will you say anything or not?
Good evening, everybody. As soon as I find that the striker ran down the middle of the pitch, I will give them the first warning, inform the other umpire, and also inform the same to the batsman, the other batsman, and to the fielding team captain.
Yeah. Bhavin, yes, there's nothing wrong with your answer. According to the law, if you see the striker running in straight down the middle of the pitch, you can give the striker a first and final warning. But a bit of field craft, especially if this is the first time that you've seen the striker running in the protected area. So a bit of field craft. If it happens the first time, I will have a stern word with the batters and inform them that they're causing avoidable damage to the pitch. I will tell them, if I do see this again, I will take action. So if I see it the first time, I will have a quiet word with the batters. But there's nothing wrong with your answer. If you wanted to go immediately into action and give them their first and final warning, no problem. But I would have, especially if I see it the first time, I would have a stern word with them. Especially this is day 3. They may be close to a declaration, and so just your way of managing it. Nothing wrong with your answer, but you can take the game situation into account by firstly just having a stern word with both batters before going into action. So now, so let's say we go according to my method. You have a stern word with both batters. So now, this is now the morning session. So after lunch, you again see the striker running straight down the pitch. And remember, you already had a word with the batters. What will you do next?
Next
Any hands, Wilma?
Hans.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, since you already had a discussion with the batsmen in the morning session, you will now call them over again and you will explain to them that they are now on a first and final warning. That warning will stand throughout the innings and it will also count for all the other batsmen coming in, so they need to be informed about that. You'll obviously inform your colleague about it and the fielding captain as to what has happened.
Yeah, well done, Hans. So you will give the batters their first and final warning, and this warning shall apply throughout the innings. And as each incoming batter comes to the wicket, you shall inform them as well, and inform the captain of the fielding side, and when possible, captain of the batting side. Well done, Hans. Now, during 2 hours after the drinks break in the middle session, again you see one of the batters running straight down the middle of the pitch. What do you do? Any hands, Wilma?
Dula, we've got Mervyn Julius.
Mervyn, the floor is yours.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me?
Good evening to you. Yeah, loud and clear, Mervyn.
Okay. No, I just want to get back to that first example where you gave a warning to the either batsman for running onto the pitch.
Yeah.
I believe, or that what common sense tells me, if there's nothing wrong with giving the friendly warning, but if you see on that instance that it was deliberate, then you can go over to the next step. That is what I read in the law. I don't know if I'm whether right or wrong, but that is what I'm reading into the law. If you see it's deliberate, then you can take action immediately by giving him that first and final warning. Just correct me if I'm right.
I agree 100% with you, Mervyn. That's why there's nothing in the law that speaks about first friendly warning or friendly anything, nothing. You can take the match situation into account. You can take into account if you do see batters running straight down and turning the spikes in the protected area. So yes, there's nothing wrong if by taking the match situation into account, and if you see it was deliberately damage caused by the batters, you can go over to action immediately by giving a first and final warning. So yes, take the match situation into account. Let's say if this happens on day one of the game in the morning session, in those cases, I would have a word with the batters. There's no real reason for them to want to cause damage to the pitch. I will have a quiet word if this is, let's say, the morning, or let's say this is day one. I'll have a quiet word with them. But if match situation day three, close to the batting side is close to a declaration, and if I see the batters going in there and it's avoidable and causing deliberate damage, you can go over to action immediately. Yeah, so thanks for that point, Mervyn.
Yeah, while I'm on the floor now, can I go back to the previous question, please? There's something that I picked up in the previous with regards to that
yes,
to the
you may.
Okay, when delivering that beam, well, obviously it's the first and final warning. And you should call and signal no ball. But my question now is, what if it's a front foot fault while delivering that beamer? So the foot fault takes then precedence. Am I right?
No, Mervyn, you still need to warn him for bowling I remember.
I'm getting to that. But in this instance, there was a fault, but also a beamer. So the beamer still stands. The first and final warning will still stand. Just rectify me on that, please.
Yes, it will still stand if it was directed at the. But I see again, according to law, whether it's directed at the batsman, whether it's going to cause physical harm to the batter, is irrelevant. You still need to give the first and final warning according to law. I know there's a playing condition that's slightly different, but let's ignore. But we're covering law in this course. So according to law, you still need to give the first and final warning.
Okay, and the ball needs to be a rebought.
Yes, Mervyn.
Okay.
You happy? Did I answer your question?
I'm happy with that. Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, Mervyn.
Dula, we have Cindy Jongse.
Wilma, yeah, Cindy, the floor is yours.
Hello, Wilma.
Hello, Cindy.
Um, so if it's we're back now down to that third instance afternoon off.
Cindy, you're breaking up a bit.
Sorry, I don't have very good. Hand it over.
Cindy, if you can type your question in the chat box, and I'll gladly answer it when we get to the Q&A session.
Okay, there's no question. I was just going to answer the rest of that question. But if you can't hear me, let rather somebody else take it.
No, we can actually hear you clearly now. Cindy, you go
okay.
ahead. Now we can hear you clearly.
Okay, so while the
So
signal.
yeah, so
Okay,
freeze.
so
Wherever
now,
you are now, freeze.
okay.
And
So we gave a warning, and now we've done the
Yeah.
final warning, and now it's after tea. Hey, he sees it happen again. Then the umpire will disallow all runs to the batting side, and return any out batters to their original end, and signal a no ball or a wide to the scorers, and award 5 penalty runs to the fielding side. If there are any other penalty runs, one's also got to apply for that, and then inform the captain of the fielding side
Mhm.
and the captain of the batting side as soon as possible, or as soon as it's practical.
Mhm.
Reason for this action, and
Yeah.
finally, the umpires need to report this to the governing body.
Yeah, well done, Cindy. Textbook answer. Thank you so much. And you could add for but extra point if you can say there are 4 balls left in the over. So thank you so much. That is, these were my revision questions for the evening. I am now going to open the floor for Q&A. I'm going to start by going to the chat box, and after I've gone through the questions in the chat box, I will then go to the hands. So just give me a second. Let me just go through the questions in the chat box. So Cindy, to answer your question Cindy's question was, how do penalty runs get awarded to the fielding side? Do 5 runs get deducted from the current batting side, or will they start the next innings with plus 5 runs? So yes, Cindy, it gets added to the total when in their innings. So there's a portion in the scorebook that says penalty runs. So if penalty runs was awarded to the batting side, they will actually start the innings plus 5. But that plus 5 will be indicated in the scorebook under penalty runs.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Cindy. Now I'm going to the next question. It's from Sasikant. In the penalty runs awarded, when the striker runs in the protected area, we award 5 penalty runs. Can you give me example of awarding any other 5 penalty runs that may be applicable? So an example, let me just think, Sasikant is applicable. Just give me a second. I'm just thinking. Shasikan, can I get back to your question? I'll get back to yours. It doesn't click into my head another example, but I'll get back to you. Gaston, your question. If the batters run through the protected area a second time, and you as the umpire, you warn them and inform both captains and colleague as per the law, what is the batting captain is off the field? Do we have time? Do we have to call him on the field? No, Gaston. So what you do is you make a note in your notebook that of the warning. So when possible, let's say at the next interval, you go to the batting captain and you inform the captain of what transpired on the field of play. If you are standing at provincial or international level where there are third or fourth umpires available, you can go onto the radio. The fourth umpire will then relay the message to the batting captain. The fourth umpire will go to the dressing room and relay the message to the batting captain. I don't see any other questions in the chat box. Sasikan, I didn't forget about yours. I'll get back to your question. I'm now going over to see if any hands are raised. I see there's a hand raised. Mervin, can you unmute yourself and ask your question? I'll go to the next one. Nazmi, can you, I see your hand is raised. Can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Abdullah, just to come back to Shashikan's question, for example, can example be when between the over, say it's over up, now the batters they meet in the middle of the pitch to discuss maybe the next move or whatever they're planning to do. Can that be an example as another like walking over the protected area or meeting in the protected area?
No. Sasikan's question is about you've now awarded penalty runs for the striker. The strikers running in the protected area. So now the law says you can also award any other 5 penalty runs that are applicable. So the punishment is for the strikers going in there. But as per the law, you can also allow any other 5 penalty runs that are applicable. From the top of my head, I just this moment can't think of any, but I will get to it. A light bulb will go on into my head, so I will answer that question.
What about if it hits a fielder's helmet after the strike has hit the ball? Necessarily penalty run that against the field.
Sorry, Cindy.
Sorry, but I thought if the ball striker hits the ball, he runs onto the area, he gets 5 penalty runs to the fielding side. But the striker hits the ball, and it now hits the fielder's helmet behind the wicketkeeper. Those are also 5 penalty runs that have to be awarded in that shot, doesn't it?
Now, Cindy, that's the one exception here. So it says you shall award any 5 penalty runs except protective helmets belonging to the fielding side. That's the one exception.
Okay.
Yeah. So in this instance, those penalty runs will not count. But don't worry, our light bulb will go into my head. I will get to it. Let me see if there are any other hands raised. Sasikan, I see your hand is raised.
Good evening.
Hello, Sasikan.
It is not with the question which I asked, but there's another. Can I ask a question regarding the match which we had this weekend?
Yeah, of course you can. I'll get back to your question later. A light bulb will go on in my head, so I will answer it. I'll get back to yours. Yes, you can answer me. You can ask
that question. That's why. Now, what happened this weekend? We had a match on Sunday. The team, they're supposed to give us a team list. They gave us a team list of 12 people. But from the first 11, one of them came late. The game was supposed to start at 9:30. When the first ball was bowled, he was not on the field. But we went to the opposite captain. He disagreed to allow him. But by my mistake, I told the fielding captain that he can come after 1 over. So there was, because of this anonymity, there was some confusion, and we had to stop the game. And then eventually we agreed that they have to play with 10 people.
So Sasikan, when it comes to the allowance of substitute fielders, is for the umpires alone to decide. And they are according to the law, there are two conditions that needs to be met when it comes to substitutes. First one, injured or ill in the game. Second one, wholly acceptable reason. I know there are playing conditions that gets added for particular competitions. So I'm not sure if there is a playing condition that allows for latecomers. I know here in the West, in Cape Town, we do allow if someone comes late when he comes to the field. So there is a playing condition that allows a substitute, and for then when that person returns to field immediately. But that's a club cricket playing condition. But to come back to the law of cricket, when it comes to substitute, umpires alone to decide, and the conditions that needs to be met, either injured or ill, or a wholly acceptable reason for that fielder not being there. So I don't know if there's something that a playing condition that guides for your competition, that guides substitutes when they allowed and when they're not allowed. But if we just go strictly according to the law, if, obviously this player wasn't injured or ill. So was there a wholly acceptable reason for this player not being there? What was the reason given for the player not being at the field?
He said he was coming in public transport, and he got delayed because of they had some issue in the punches or whatever. But now the opposite captain completely refused to let him come in.
To refuse a substitute fielder to field on his behalf.
Yes, even substitute fielder, even himself, he came 1 hour after it was bowled. Even they didn't let the substitute fielder come in. Even the main fielder, main player.
Yeah, Sasikan, firstly, when it comes to substitute fielders, the fielding captain's got no say. It's the umpires alone to decide, and you get guided by either the law or the playing condition. I've just read to you the law, and I'm not sure if there are playing conditions in your competition covering if substitute comes late. But then when when the player eventually arrived, why would the fielding captain refuse the substitute to come, the player now to come onto the field? What was the objection?
They said that if the fielder comes in, we are going, we are withdrawing from the match, and so the player to continue, we had to come to agreement that he doesn't play. Otherwise, they're going to withdraw the game.
But why? What was the reason why couldn't this nominated player take the field? Yes, he was 10 minutes late. Is it now? Was there a reason because he's 10 minutes late, he cannot take the field?
Yes, that's what we were not guided very well by the laws of the law of Kenya, but there's a national player who had already played in the Kenya team, and he was very abundant that he should not play.
No, so if there's nothing in the playing conditions covering this, Sasikant, you then go over to law. Law then guides you. So now law, either injured or ill. But obviously this player wasn't injured or ill. He then if there was a wholly acceptable reason, you could then have allowed, if you felt that him being stuck in traffic was a wholly acceptable reason for him being late, you could have allowed a substitute. So that's covering the substitute. It is only umpires to decide. Captains have got no say whatsoever whether a substitute is allowed or not. If according to the two umpires, if that was a wholly acceptable reason for the players being late, for why the players not there, you could have allowed a substitute. In terms of now, eventually when that player arrived at the field, there's absolutely no way the captain could refuse that player to now take the field. There's nothing in the law. That captain's got no foot to stand on. That player could have fielded, come onto the field. There's nothing in the law that stops that player. You should have stood your ground, Sasikan, and said to the player, when it comes to substitute, this is what the law say. And for us, this is a wholly acceptable reason. That's why we're allowing a substitute. Yes, he is here 10 minutes later. Thank you, substitute. You can now go off the field. Our nominated player is here. Nominated player, thank you. You may step onto the field of play. You've got the law that backs you. That the captain or that field or batting captain at the time, it's got nothing to say. It's not in his power.
Thank you very much, sir, for your guidance.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Sasikant.
Thank you.
Next hand that I see raised is Siriniketh. Over to you. Siriniketh, can you unmute yourself? If we can't get through to you, Siriniketh, can you put your question in the chat box? I'm now going over to Varun. Varun, over to you. Can you unmute yourself and ask your question, please?
Yes, sir. So it is regarding, sir, what Shashikant said earlier in his first question. So there can be illegal fielding, sir, with striker in the protected area. Simultaneously, there is a illegal fielding by the fielding side.
Agree 100% with you, Varun. Thank you so much. You've put me out of my misery.
It's because of you, sir. It's because of you. You
Yeah.
have taught, sir, laws so clearly. Sometimes it
I just
happens.
had a,
Yes, sir.
I had
Thank you, sir.
I had a blank moment, but yes, Sisikant, there is the answer. If of that same ball there was illegal fielding, that 5 penalty runs will count. The only 5 penalty runs that will not count is if it should hit the protective helmet behind the keeper. Thank you so much, Varun. Next hand I see raised is Ivan de Jong. Ivan, over to you.
Sir Sriniket here. You can hear me now?
Yes, Sriniket, I can hear you loud and clear. Ivan, let me take Sriniket first, and then if you still have a question, you can raise your hand. Sriniket, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Sir, I just to know, like the level 2 will be similar to level 1 exam, like online. How will that be, sir?
Can you were breaking up, Sriniket? Can you repeat your question? I just heard online. So are you referring to the online exam?
How will be the level 3 exam? Similar to level 2 exam?
Yes, it would be.
How
It's
is
going to
it?
be exactly the same as the level 2 exam, Sriniket. Exactly the same.
Okay, so the questions will be from the of 5, whatever you have show slides you have shown only.
Yeah, so the questions will be put in the chat box, and let's say questions 1 to 8 will be put in the chat box, and we will give the attendees the chance to answer those questions. We will then put the next 5 to 8, and then the next 5 to 8. That is how we're going to conduct the exam. Questions will be copied and pasted in the chat box.
Okay, so we need to type the answer in the chat box.
You need to?
We need to type the answer in the chat box.
No, when it comes to the exam, Srinikesh, we will forward you blank answer pages. We will put the first 8 questions in the chat box. You will answer question number 1, and you'll write it down on your blank exam page. You'll write the answer to question 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And once everyone is done with the 8 questions, we'll post the next 8, and then the following 8. Once you've done answering all your questions on the pages that we've provided, you need to scan those pages and you need to email it. Email it to us. Yeah, so we're following exactly the same format as we did in level 2. Scan your answers, email it, and then email it to us.
Okay, yes, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next hand that is raised is Cindy. Cindy, if you can unmute yourself, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear, Cindy.
So the other night in the 100, this is my question. The keeper is collecting the ball to run out the incoming batter. And the way she's standing, her feet are apart and the batter comes running in, Wong, and she slides her bat in and her bat hits the keeper's foot and she loses her bat, but her bat has been grounded beyond the crease because that's just where the keeper's foot is, like a few centimeters inside the crease. So she's in, not out. What if, as the wicketkeeper was standing, so there's no deliberate attempt on either side, it's just how things happen in the moment. Wicketkeeper standing there, but her her legs are wide apart, her foot is actually just outside the crease or on the line, so that when the batter comes running in to ground her bat, the bat slides, hits her foot, and can't be grounded beyond the crease. The decision be there.
Cindy, very unlucky to the batter. It's a freak. I would call it a freak dismissal, but unfortunately, because the bat was not grounded behind the popping crease, unfortunately, I have to give out the batter run out.
Even if it was due to the wicketkeeper's foot being there.
Yes, unfortunately, because it was not deliberate. If it was deliberate, total different scenario. But if it's not deliberate, the keeper has got the right to stand there and to gather the ball. And unfortunately, because the bat was not grounded behind the popping crease, unfortunately, when the wicket was broken, there was no part of the batter's body, person or bat behind the crease when the wicket was broken. Unfortunately, unlucky, but unfortunately run out. If I was a batter, a difficult pill to swallow, but yeah, it's just unfortunate. I would call it a freak incident, but yeah, unfortunately. Thank you for your question, Cindy. I don't see any other hands raised. Let me go to the chat box to see if there's any further questions. Now, just give me a second. Johan, Cindy in the UK. Okay, you've asked your question. Sasikan, how many questions will be in the exam? I think there are 26 questions, 26 or 27 questions in the level 3 exam, Sasikan. Last question I see in the chat box from Sohail. So I would like to bring to your attention the Sunday incident where the batsman walks and no one has heard the nick and appealed, but the batsman thinks he has and walks. Has it ever happened to you, and what do you do in such an incident? Let me just read it again. Sohail, are you referring to an incident that you saw on TV, or are you referring to an incident in a game that happened on Sunday? Was this the David Warner incident? Okay, so Sohail, to answer your question, I didn't see the incident. I thought you were referring to the David Warner incident. So the no, it hasn't happened to me. I've noticed that most batters these days, you only find one or two that walks. 99% of the batters, they stand and wait for you to make the decision. So the law allows the batter to walk, even though um, even though even though if no one has appealed, the law allows the batter to walk. The batter feels that he or her nick the ball and they want to walk. The law allows them to walk. So yeah, by the law, no issue with that. If the batsman felt he nicked it and honest batsman and he walked, yeah, no problem. That batsman will then be out caught. And no, it hasn't happened to me where no one has appealed. Usually, I've had batters that walked, but there usually was an appeal. I never had a batter there where there was no appeal, no one appealed, and the batter put his bat under his arm and then walked. Thanks for your question, Sohail. Let me just see if there's any other questions in the chat box. So, Sohail, I see there's a further question to your question. So you're asking, so what if the batters didn't nick it, but the batsman think he did? So if the batsman wants to walk, the law allows the batter to walk unless a review gets called where TV can reprieve the batter. But if the batsman walks and don't signal anything about taking a review, you will allow the batter to walk because the law allows the batter to walk, even though if there was no appeal, the law allows it. I don't see any other questions in the chat box. Let me see if any hands are raised.
Dula Ivan's hand was raised and I see it's gone down again now. Oh, there you
Okay,
go.
Ivan, if you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Ivan, bad reception from your side. If you can put your question in the chat box. No, Ivan, there's a bad connection on your side, so put your question in the chat box. I'll gladly answer it. Let me just go to the chat box again to see if there's any further questions. I don't see any further questions. I don't see any other hands. So let me go to the chat box again. Nothing. There I see Mervin's hands raised. Mervin, if you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thank you. Thanks for the floor. Obviously, we're dealing with senior cricket here now. But if incoming batsman, you see the incoming batsman comes in without a helmet, do you as an umpire, can you be proactive and instruct him to wear a helmet, or is it his choice? I know in schools cricket, it's absolutely necessary to wear a helmet, but the senior cricket now, do I have that option to tell the batsman to wear a helmet or not? Seeing that we've got hostile bowling nowadays, so what's your view on that?
Yes, Mervin, you can whisper in his ear that you need to, don't you want to put on a helmet or call for a helmet? You cannot force the batter to wear a helmet. Yes, I know in schoolboy playing conditions, it's compulsory for them to wear helmets, but in senior cricket, there's not no such playing condition. So you can whisper in the batter's ear, batter. I've seen the hostile bowling for the past hour. The wicket is lively. Are you sure you don't want to put on a helmet for your safety? If the batter then still refuses after you've given him or her the heads up how the wicket is playing, you then leave it. You cannot force the batter to wear a helmet in senior cricket. There's no such playing condition, but I'll definitely mention it to the batter to go to get a helmet. The same applies to a keeper. I believe, especially on a turning pitch, if the keeper's standing up with the ball spitting and bouncing, I'll whisper in the keeper's ear, keeper, don't you want to go put on a helmet? If the keeper ignores my advice, I can't force the keeper to go put on a helmet, but I will whisper in his ear if it is a spitting and bouncing pitch to go put on a helmet. But I cannot force either the keeper or the batter to go put on a helmet. Did I answer your question, Mervin?
Yes, you absolutely did, and thank you so much for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Do I see any other? Let me just go to the chat box. There's a comment from Sohail. I'll get to your hand now, Nazmi. Sohail is saying, I was wicket for Ireland. We had two slip and Sulik. No one had a nick, no appeal, but the Canadian batsman walk. We all left stuns and the static. Yeah. So yes, Sohail, the law allows the batter to walk, even if no one appealed or hurt the nick. If the batter wants to walk, it's his prerogative. But yeah, that is 1 out of a million these days. Most of the batters wait for the umpire to lift their finger. Nazmi, over to you.
Hi, Abdullah. I just want to come back to Uncle Mervin's question. Does that apply for the fielders as well? Like the silly point fielder?
Yeah, same applies to them, Naz. I will mention it to them because I'm a believer in safety first. I even mention it to the captain. I'll say, Captain, don't you want to get your silly point to put on a fielder? Don't you want to get your keeper to put on a helmet? The ball's spitting on this pitch. This is an aggressive batter. Your silly point can be in danger. Don't you want to get him or her to put on the helmet? That's all I can do, Nazmi. I can just mention it. I can tell them it's for safety. But if they want to stand there batting without a helmet or standing at short leg without a helmet, yeah, we cannot force them like we can in schoolboy cricket where there is a playing condition in place. But in senior cricket, there's no such playing condition. We can only ask the captains, and if the captains and the fielder want to stand there without a helmet, yeah, it's their head that's in danger, or it's their prerogative. If they want to get hurt, nothing we can do. But at least, I mean, I've covered myself. I've asked I've asked whether you want to put on a helmet or not. If something happens, you need to take ownership. And I spoke to the captain, so captain and that fielder needs to take ownership if anything happens. Mervin, is that an old hand or is it a new hand?
Thank you, Abdullah.
Mervin, is that an
Yes,
old
yes,
hand or new hand?
it's actually a new one.
Yeah, Mervin. We in
No,
Q&A now, so you guys can bombard me with questions. It's still early.
with
It's only 8:15 South African time.
okay. No, with regards to speaking to the captain or to the player itself, wearing the helmet or not, I think we as umpires, when we do that, speak to the captain or to the player, we just need to make a note in our notebooks that I spoke to you on that time, that over. So there is absolutely thing that can come back to us. Say, for instance, there is a hearing or what, then we have that proof that I did speak to you as a captain or as a player. Just need
I
to be
agree
proactive with that.
Agree 100%. Agree 100% with you. Can even mention it to your colleague. And usually I in these cases I won't whisper. I mean I don't shout it out loud, but I make it clear to everyone that from my side there is a concern, and I am when it safety first umpire. I believe put on a a helmet rather safety first. So I do mention it out loudly, so batters can hear me, the fielders can hear me. I show them there is a concern from my side with regards to the safety of the player. So I've got lots of witnesses. So if anything should happen, I do have witnesses that heard me asking the fielder or the keeper or the batter to put on a helmet. Did I answer your
Abdullah?
question, Mervin?
Yes, you did, Abdullah. Just one more thing.
Yeah, we in Q&A, so you can bombard me with questions.
Maybe the members knows that, or maybe some of them don't know it. Signaling the penalty runs. Signaling the penalty run.
Yeah, so there are two types of penalty runs. You get penalty runs to the batting side and then penalty runs to the fielding side. So if you can visualize, visualize the penalty runs to the batting side is you put the palm of your hand on your opposite shoulder. If you can visualize palm of hand on the opposite shoulder, but now you need to. So penalty runs for the batting side. So palm of hand on the opposite shoulder, but you need to tap on the opposite shoulder. So if you can visualize palm of hand, opposite shoulder, and you tap your shoulder 3 or 4 or 5 times, that is penalty runs to the batting side. So how I remember it is batting, tapping. That's how I remember. Batting, tapping. So tapping opposite shoulder with the palm of your hand 4 or 5 or 6 times. That is penalty runs to the batting side. Uh, Penalty runs to the fielding side. Similar thing where you put your palm of your hand on your opposite shoulder, but instead now of tapping, you just hold it on the opposite shoulder. So just keep your hand on the opposite shoulder without moving it. That is when you give penalty runs to the fielding side.
Thank you for that. That's exactly how I was taught to do it. With and visualize it and
No.
can stick in your head. Thank you so much.
Yes. You're welcome, Mervin. Any other question?
No, I'm done. Thank
I'm
you.
going to the yeah. You're welcome, Mervin. I'm going to the chat box. I don't see any other question. I see Cindy's hand raised. Cindy, we're in Q&A. You can keep me here till 12 o'clock. I don't mind.
Thanks, Abdullah. I'm just thinking ahead with this rule that is coming in October. I know that it's going to take time to get down to us, but this new one where now my head's gone blank on how to even describe it. Sorry. Okay, I've gone absolutely. There's a new rule. There were a whole lot of rules passed. The one was, I see they're playing it in the 100, where the new batter to the crease on a caught out, the new batter to the crease faces the strike. I see they are
Yeah,
playing that to get used to it.
yeah, that
What?
is yeah, that is becoming law from 1st October.
Okay, and then what was the other? There was another rule there as well. It's if you trigger, if the ball's going down leg side, and if you step back, and then step forward again, then it's not going to be can't judge it as
Yes,
going down.
yes, Sonia, they're changing the
You know what
wide
I'm
law.
talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about. So they're changing the wide law, and they're trying to level the playing ground between batsman and bowler. At this stage, uh, um, the um, the playing grounds are not really level. It's a you always hear commentators say it's a batsman's game, and I was a batter in my playing days, so yes, I actually agree it is a batter's game. But they're trying to level the playing ground between batters and bowlers. And when it comes to the the wide law, so you'll find many a time. So if you can visualize this, so the batter, let's say, is standing a uh, a meter outside the leg stump. So as the bowler's running in, the batter's a meter outside leg stump. Now the batter moves, suddenly going, taking a step towards the stumps, then going back a meter towards leg stump. So now what they're changing is, by the batter moving, if the bowler should bowl a ball where the batter stood while the bowler was running up, that ball would now be deemed a legal delivery. So in the example, so if you can visualize, let's say a batter standing half a meter outside leg stump, and then as the bowler runs in the bowler's gather, suddenly the batter jumps now to be now in level with the stumps. So as the bowler was gathering, the batter was half a meter outside leg stump. Now the bowler's in his gather, the batter now jumps and is now in line with the stumps. So the law will now allows when the moment that ball comes into play. So if the batter jumps and in line with the stumps, and the bowler now bowls the ball where the batsman originally stood, that would now be a legal delivery. Where we find lots of batters trying manipulating the wide by moving, and the bowlers would then bowl where they originally stood, but as the ball was delivered, they would then jump somewhere else, and the bowler would then bowl there trying to get a wide. The lawmakers have now decided, no, no, no. If where the batter originally stood while the bowler was running in, or anywhere else, while if the batter moves, let's say the batter moves while the bowler is running in, standing a foot outside leg stump. Then the batter moves right across to off stump. Anywhere where that batter moves and that bowler bowls the ball there, even if it was outside reach of the batter, the umpire should not be calling it a wide. That is just, in a nutshell, what they're trying to, just to bring it a bit equal between bowlers and batters, because they've picked up batters moving, it just not fair towards the bowler. That last split second, suddenly the batter moves a meter across, and the bowler then delivers the ball where the batter stood, and now suddenly it's a wide. The lawmakers felt that's not fair. Let's give a bit of leeway to the bowler.
Okay, and
Suddenly
how?
did I?
Oh yeah, no, it's much clearer in my mind now. But how easily do you think it's going to be for us to umpire on that when you can't see behind you as to when the bowler actually starts their run up?
The Cindy, I don't think the batter is going to start moving before the bowler gets his run up. So it would, for me, would make no sense. I think it usually happens once the bowler starts his run up. But another trigger point for me is I look at two things. The batter, usually you can look at the batter and the batter will give you an indication when the bowler is about to run. Also, you can hear the footsteps of the bowler. That's another clue I use when the bowler started.
Thanks for that.
You're welcome. Mervin, new Ann or old Ann?
Something new just came up
Yeah, no problem. We're still in Q&A.
with regards to looking at the batsman's triggering. You can also have a look at the keeper. That the keeper will also give you an indication of whether the bowler is starting his run up. That's just small things that I've observed during my umpiring years. It's small things. You look at the keeper and you look at some of the players, or if there are slips involved, you can look at them too. They will give you an indication.
Yeah, good point, Mervin. Keeper and slips, another good indication when the bowler started his or her run up. Thanks for that, Mervin.
Yep.
Let me go to the chat box. I don't see any more questions in the chat box. Let me see if there's any other hands. I don't see any other hands. Mervin, is that a new hand or old hand?
No, that was old hand.
Okay, old hand. Don't see any more questions. Don't see any more hands. Going once, twice. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me this evening. On Wednesday evening will be our revision lecture, where I will go over all the revision questions that we've covered in the first 6 lectures. I'll also go through a bit of admin in terms of the exam. Tom will also send out an email with regards to the admin surrounding the exam. Just thank you so much for joining me this evening. Thank you so much for your questions. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you, Abdullah. Goodbye, everyone.
Thanks, Abdullah.